Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today we're going to recap Drag Race Season 15, Episode 3, technically. Yeah, it's Episode 3. It was a very short episode. It was interesting. But we'll get into it. Let's talk all about it. Let's see what we feel and all that jazz. Let's just go. Okay, so we start off the episode with the picking of the teams for the challenge, and the challenge is I think it's like the Queen's afterlife, like the queer after, as RuPaul puts it, where they're making a heaven, or I guess they could have made hell, couldn't they? But I understand why they didn't. I guess the third one is kind of hell. It's kind of like purgatory. I'm already rambling, but they're supposed to make like an afterlife for drag queens. And the challenge was interesting, but let's start with the picking process of the teams. So they did the pretty classic way that they sometimes do the challenge picking if they don't have a mini challenge, where the winner of the last challenge and the person who survived the bottom get to pick the teams, which I think is a pretty fair way to do it. If you are trying to make 3 teams or 2 teams, however, then it's a very simple way to just kind of, say, here's 2 people who might have a reason to pick the teams. And so Anitra picked her team of Marsha, Selena, Sasha, and Lux. And I think this is a pretty good team. If I was in Anitra's position, I would have probably picked a very similar team. I probably would have picked the exact same people, except I probably would have picked Lucy over Lux. I don't know if at this point they all knew how, like Lucy could do like the impressions and stuff. But if I knew that, I think that's probably what I would have chose to do. And I think that would have been a pretty solid team for this challenge. And I mean, this team was already a solid team regardless because they were the best team of the challenge by far. And then the second team was Amethyst, Princess Poppy, Aura Mayari, Spice, and who else was on the team? Wait, who else was on it? It was Amethyst, Princess Poppy, Spice, Aura Mayari, and who the fuck was on the team? I don't remember. Was it Lucy? It was Lucy. Yeah, Lucy was on the second team. I thought she was on the third team for a second. No, she was on the second team. It was those 5. And that was a pretty the I guess I kind of understand where Amethyst was coming from with some of her picks. I understand picking Lucy for the challenge. I understand wanting to have one of the twins. After Poppy's performance, I can kind of understand that. I can kind of understand all of her choices, but I think, I don't know, if I was in her position, I feel like I would have potentially done that differently because there were people like Mistress in that last group. And who are the 2 that was immediately thought of? It was a Mistress and Malaysia, who I felt like I felt like who also had kind of shown to be really good at comedy, and could have potentially been picked. But I can kind of understand her reasoning. It obviously didn't work out for her, but yeah. And then the last team was Jax, Robin, Mistress, Malaysia, and Sugar. And that was an interesting group, which we will get to later once we start talking about the actual challenge, which is actually going to happen right now. So our first group does, kind of like the tour of the queer afterlife situation with like Sasha kind of guiding the tour with Selena, and then, showing all these different scenes of different scenarios. And this was a really good acting challenge performance. I mean, the acting challenge as a whole this episode wasn't stellar, but as just an individual team performance, this one was really solid. I mean, I would say in terms of the past few seasons of Drag Race US, I mean, I would say the Daytona Wins challenge was probably my favorite overall acting performance. But in terms of just a single group's performance, this performance here would probably come immediately after. It's pretty solid. The jokes land, everybody does a good job. I think this could have very reasonably been a week where they judged it in teams and this team was on the top, because I feel like they all could have deserved it, because nobody in this team did bad. I think it was a really, really good performance by them. The second group, I I like the direction of it, like kind of like the double entendres for everything, but they just weren't delivered as well as they probably could have been. But honestly, that team I think was pretty all right. And frankly, if this was a thing that was judged in teams, they would have been the middle of the road team for me. They would have been the safe team. And then the third team, they did not do particularly well in this challenge. I think it could because like some of the content was funny, but like it kind of felt like the second group, it kind of felt like it was like kind of like stagnant, but it was kind of in the middle. Like it was never I was never cackling, but I was never like, oh God, no. But it really kind of fluctuated the last group. There were a couple funny moments. The meet and greet moment was funny for sure, like towards the end of their performance. But the rest of it, I was just like, okay, this is not going well for the team. This is not going how I think they envisioned it to. And I just don't think they ended up planning enough. And I think it kind of, as we kind of saw, I think it kind of all came together a bit, like in the actual like making of the commercial. That's kind of when the concepts all actually started to blend, and it's like, nah, you should have at least a general outline prior to coming in. You should have had like, okay, meet and greet. Here's the rough lines. It really felt like they were making it up as they went along. It was not. It just didn't end up working out well for them. Um, and speaking of not working out well for people, this episode length did not work out well for anybody. It was not good. I really hope they switch it back and give us more time in these episodes and give us back our hour and a half. Because especially with so many contestants, it really leaves it so that like there were like three contestants in this episode that did not get a confessional. I forget who posted this. I might have been Drag Detective, but I could be wrong. On Instagram of like the confessional counts for the episode. But it was, oh God, who was it? I think it was Aura, Marsha, and somebody else. It was Aura, Marsha, and someone. I don't remember who did not get a single confessional this episode. And like, well, they did get screen time in other ways. Marsha got a good amount of screen time in Untucked, I remember. Um, and I think also got a decent amount of screen time in terms of like the actual planning and like stuff of the actual like conducting and the actual like execution of the commercials. It is, I feel like every episode there should be enough time and to actually like give all the contestants a confessional and have it make sense, but like they couldn't because they had like 46 minutes I think was the full length of the episode. It just wasn't enough. And so what I envision is probably going to happen is this last fall, during the airing of the Survivor and the Amazing Race seasons, there was a new show that they tried to put in between to get some viewership from Amazing Race and Survivor called The Real Love Boat, which is not like a remake of the old show Love Boat. It's like a dating show like that's very Love Island-esque as far as I could tell. And so they were trying to promote it by putting it in between, which was kind of annoying, but the run times for Survivor and The Amazing Race were still intact. So it wasn't that big of a deal, you know? Um, so, but what eventually ended up happening is that after like the first 5 episodes aired of of The Real Love Boat, they ended up taking it off of the air and just releasing the remaining episodes on streaming on Paramount Plus because it wasn't getting enough ratings to like for it to be like make sense for it to remain on the air. And then they moved back the Survivor and The Amazing Race to their original times. So it is definitely like a thing they can do, because I would imagine that the Real Friends of WeHo is not going to be getting that much viewership. So my personal prediction on what I think is probably going to happen is I would assume that in the next few weeks we would see the Real Friends of WeHo not get enough viewership, and then them taking it off of the air, probably putting it on streaming on Paramount Plus or whatever. And then hopefully with that would also grant us more RuPaul's Drag Race time. Now, obviously it might not. They might just take it off the air and we would still get 60-minute episodes, but the episodes in Untucked would be back to back again, which would be nice. That would be a definite bonus. But or it could they could Real Friends WeHo might actually get a lot of viewership and then might just stay there, which would be annoying. Or they move it to a different time, who knows? But I don't. I'm gonna make the prediction right now that I don't think the current schedule that's set up for the rest of the season is what's actually going to continue to happen. That's my current prediction on all that. But now that I kind of ranted about that a little bit, let's continue along the episode. Let us go to the runways. Now, this is a screen cap of right before the lip sync, but I chose this because you can see everybody's runways. um, and I think this is a fun runway category. I do think it was a pretty, kind of like standard category, like, representation of a category. Nobody was super above and beyond to me. Nobody was like, you know, wasn't like super low for me at all. I think everybody did a pretty all right job with the description and the theme. A few people I want to highlight whose outfits I really liked were amethysts. I love it. It's golden and flowy, and like that's an outfit that I want to wear. I love some like big like high boots situations. I love like a kind of a flowy cape situation. I love it. I also really love Jax's outfit. I love the reference to Jax from Mortal Kombat. And it's I also really am I'm also a big fan of like green. I don't know why. Whenever I like when drag queens wear green. It's just a good color to me that doesn't get worn enough, I feel like. And also to because I've highlighted Amethyst's outfit, it would be fair to highlight Lux's outfit because they do have pretty, kind of like similar outfits in that they're both like gold and flowy, and both of the outfits look really good. And Lux walking, why did I say running? Because I was walking down the runway, there we go, with that outfit and just strutting down with it was so good. I was like, that's good. I like that a lot. So let's move on to the lip sync. I took the screen cap earlier today. I think it's really funny. There's something about it with Amos's stuff in the front, and then I think that's Sugar in the back there, and you just see the hair, and you can see like the shadow of like teeth, and it's really funny. And then you see Poppy in the back as well, just kind of doing her thing. But this was an interesting lip sync. I love the lip sync song, and it is a remix of the original song, which I noticed immediately, but it wasn't like a remix where I was like, oh no, why didn't you do the original? It's kind of just like a slightly peppier version of the original, which I actually really like, and I like when I like this kind of remix for a lip sync song, good for them. Um, it is kind of hard for me to call who did better in this because Amethyst absolutely gave more like Diana Ross, but Princess Poppy also did not do a bad job at all, and she had funny moments in there. And I guess really the grading system is I would say purely based on opinion of, are you somebody who leans more purist in their like wants for like a lip sync performance, or are you somebody who wants to see comedy? Because I personally don't think Diana Ross is untouchable in the fact that you should never do a comedy performance to her. I think you can do a comedy performance to 99% of songs if it's funny enough. I think there's some songs that you really can't, like Natural Woman, I don't think would ever have a good comedy performance to it, ever. But this song, I do think there can be, and I didn't mind Princess Poppy's performance, but I also really liked Amethyst, so I'm not sure who I think really did better. Um, I Part of me, I literally just at this minute in time is leaning Amethyst, but I really am not sure about it. Um, yeah, sound off in the comments on who you think won this because I'm open to interpretation, truly. Um, but yeah, this was a pretty alright lip sync, I'd say. It was better than the first lip sync, I feel like, for sure. And I am happy that Amethyst stayed because I just kind of want to see more of what Amethyst is going to do. I wish Princess Poppy would have stayed as well, but honestly, literally anybody leaving any of these episodes, I'm like, I wish they both stayed. And it's like, well, we can't have 16 contestants in the finale, so let us move on. Now, let us take a second to talk about Princess Poppy. Princess Poppy, I did not expect to go this early. I thought she did a really good job in the first episode, and I actually ranked her as being one of my potentials for the top for this episode. So, obviously, I was wrong, which, it's okay to be wrong sometimes. But yeah, obviously, I did not expect Princess Poppy to leave at this point in time, but Princess Poppy is great, and I think Princess Poppy could be a great candidate for an all-star season because she absolutely can be funny and she can do all of these different things. This challenge just did not work out for her particularly well. And also combined with the runway and the fact that based off of kind of like the what you pack and other things, it seems like this runway category just happened to be one of the runway categories with like a less like showy look than a bunch of the other ones that she had prepared. Kind of it is partially her own doing because she was the one who performed the challenge, but also slightly unlucky with how the runway worked out with this week. But regardless, Princess Poppy I feel like is great, and I would love to see Princess Poppy on like an early out All Stars, along with Irene. Honestly, anybody from this season, bring them back for an All Stars. I love all these contestants so much. But yeah, sadly, Princess Poppy left this episode. Alrighty, so next episode we have the Snatch Game. We got 14 contestants for Snatch Game and 46 minutes-ish. God, everybody's gonna get a joke in. I'm not ready for that. But these are the four contestants that I think might do particularly well in Snatch Game. I decided to keep Mistress Isabel Brooks and Marsha from last week's, and they both did all right in the past challenge. They both got safe, so that is pretty solid for me. As I mentioned earlier, I had Princess Poppy doing well. That obviously did not go particularly well as she was in the bottom two and left. And then I also had Selena S. Titties, who also placed safe, but Selena and Marsha were in the best group of the week. And then Mistress did not do a bad job in her group. She was probably my second favorite in her group after Sugar. So I obviously didn't do like perfect, but with Princess Poppy. But my other guesses, I feel like were pretty all right because none of those three did bad at all. So I guess we'll take it as a slight hit and a big miss. Um, but yeah, again, as mentioned earlier, I still have Mistress and Marsha on here because they are comedy contestants. And from what we saw in the preview, Marsha is going to be doing Tim Gunn for Snatch Game, which I think is going to be so good. And I kind of feels like one of those where if you do it right, bitch, you do it right. And if you do it wrong, then you probably do it wrong. But knowing Marsha, I don't think she can really do wrong with Tim Gunn. So I would project that she's at least safe for this next episode, along with all the other contestants here. But I can be wrong. Princess Poppy. Again, Mistress Isabel Brooks is funny. She is comedy. She knows she can do camp. She's good at all of these things. So I project that she would also, do pretty good in this challenge. Lucy LaDuca, I decided to put on here because of her great Dolly impersonation in this past challenge. I would be shocked if she did not do well in this Snatch Game. I don't. I would imagine she wouldn't do Dolly again because she literally just did it. But I think if she did do Dolly again, did do Dolly. That's something for like a musical. Like did do Dolly, like or like maybe a baby doll. I don't know. Back to on topic. Lucy, I could not imagine doing bad in this challenge. I couldn't. And then I was really struggling between Selena S. Titties and Malaysia for this last spot here. We saw that Selena is going to be doing like the Virgin Mary for Snatch Game, which it kind of looked to be edited slightly shadily, but I don't know if that's just like throwing the viewer off or if that's actually how it happens, because I do think she could be very funny with it, but I imagine it might also end up being too over the top, a la Kenya Michaels Beyonce that she did for Snatch Game on season 4. And so I decided to put Malaysia here because I don't literally no other reason than I think Malaysia is kind of good at the kikiing, and I think she would end up she would be good at the improv aspect of the Snatch Game, and I really don't have much reasoning. That's just kind of what my gut feels. Like I just kind of really feel that. So I decided to put Malaysia here as well. Now for my top 4 of the season, I kept it the exact same as it was last week. Nothing that was shown in the last episode dissuaded me from any of these contestants potentially not making it to the top 4. And I mean, Sasha won last week and Lux was in the top. So after the first 2 episodes, all of them have been on the top once. So I'm doing pretty all right, I guess. So that's why I kept it the same, because there's just none of them gave me anything in the last episode that would make me think that they might not make it. And obviously, there's a good chance that at least 1 or 2 or 3 or hell, maybe all of them won't make it, because there's still 14 contestants left. But for the reasons listed already, I've just decided to keep it the same. So that is going to be it for this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you wish. I would love to hear your opinions. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.